Look around you for a second. Really look. Wherever you are right now, an office, a cafe, a living room, a train. Imagine 10 people standing in that space. Here's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to say out loud. 9 of them are not awake. They're moving, talking, reacting, but they are not thinking. They are following impulses they didn't choose, rules they never questioned, emotions that drag them like invisible chains. They believe they're making decisions, yet every move they make is a reflex, not a choice. They crave approval the way lungs crave oxygen. Silence scares them. Discomfort terrifies them. They speak not because they have something to say, but because quiet forces them to confront themselves. Their behavior feels personal, but it isn't. It's automatic. Like sleepwalkers navigating a room full of furniture, bumping into the same obstacles over and over, wondering why everything hurts. And then there's the 10th person. He doesn't rush to speak. He doesn't chase validation. He isn't pulled into the emotional weather of the room. He's watching, not judging, observing. He notices who talks too much, who fidgets when challenged, who smiles to hide fear. He hears what isn't said. He feels the tension beneath the words. While everyone else is playing checkers with their feelings, he's playing chess with reality. This person doesn't seek fairness. He seeks leverage. He doesn't fight chaos. He uses it. And here's the brutal part. If you don't learn to think like him, you will spend your life being moved by people like him. You will work harder, try harder, care more, and still watch louder, colder, more ruthless people rise past you with ease. You'll tell yourself comforting lies, that the system is broken, that luck wasn't on your side, that one day someone will finally notice your effort. But those lies are anesthesia. They numb you so you don't have to face the real diagnosis. You are trained to be harmless in a world that rewards awareness. This is where Niccolo Machiavelli enters, not as the cartoon villain history turned him into, but as one of the few thinkers honest enough to describe the world as it is, not as we wish it were. He didn't write to make people moral. He wrote to make them conscious. He saw a law that most people still refuse to look at directly. If you try to survive on goodness alone in a world that does not play by moral rules, you don't become virtuous. You become vulnerable. This is not a call to cruelty. It's a call to wake up. Most people live inside a dream. They enter negotiations, relationships, conflicts, assuming others will behave the way they would behave. If I'm honest, they'll be honest. If I work hard, I'll be rewarded. If I sacrifice, I'll be valued. This is the idealist's trap, and it's lethal. Machiavelli warned that a person who relies on goodness as armor walks into a battlefield wearing paper, not because goodness is wrong, but because it's not protection. The world does not run on intentions. It runs on incentives. People act in their self-interest, even when they dress it up as virtue. Even altruism has a payoff. Status, belonging, moral superiority. A dopamine hit that says, I'm a good person. Once you understand this, something powerful happens. You stop being shocked. Betrayal no longer feels like a mystery. Disrespect no longer feels personal. You stop asking emotional questions like, how could they do this to me? And start asking strategic ones. What did they gain? That single shift turns pain into information. Most people are blindsided by reality, fired by a boss who smiles, left by a partner who swore loyalty, undermined by a friend who needed social leverage. They stand in the wreckage, stunned. The Machiavellian thinker isn't stunned. He expected the tide to turn. He respects human nature the way a sailor respects the ocean, not as something evil, but as something powerful and indifferent. One man believes the sea loves him, so he swims without preparation and praise. The other builds a boat. To outthink the majority, you must abandon the fantasy that the world owes you fairness. Justice is an idea humans invented. Power is a law of nature. When you see reality without decoration, manipulation loses its grip on you. You stop bleeding from surprises because nothing surprises you anymore. This is the first awakening. You don't become darker, you become clearer. You move from the 90% who feel into the 10% who think. And once you make that shift, the world doesn't look the same. A room is no longer filled with people. It's filled with patterns. Conversations become maps. Reactions become signals. From that moment on, you are no longer just on the board. You are finally seeing the game. Once you stop living inside the fantasy, the next illusion collapses fast. The illusion of words. Most people believe language is truth. They think if something is said clearly enough, sincerely enough, it will be honored. But words are cheap currency. Anyone can afford them. They cost nothing to produce and even less to break. Watch what people do, not what they declare. This single discipline will save you years of confusion. When someone says, "I respect you," but repeatedly ignores your boundaries, believe the behavior. When a company says, "We're a family," but replaces people without hesitation, believe the action. Words are costumes. Actions are skin. The majority of people invert this logic. They trust language and excuse behavior. They explain away patterns because accepting them would force a painful decision. So, they stay. They hope. They endure. And slowly, they teach the world exactly how much disrespect they're willing to tolerate. The moment you drop your moral expectations of how the world should treat you, something strange happens. You become harder to control. Manipulation only works when you cling to an internal script. When that script dissolves, pressure has nowhere to attach. You become a realist. And in a room full of dreamers, the realist quietly takes command. This is where silence enters the picture. We live in an age of noise. Everyone is broadcasting, explaining, announcing, confessing. They think volume equals power. It doesn't. It equals leakage. Every unnecessary word gives away position. Every emotional explanation hands someone a map of your inner terrain. The strongest people in any room are rarely the loudest. They listen. They wait. They let others reveal themselves. Information is power, and the person speaking the least is usually collecting the most of it. Test this once, and you'll never forget it. The next time someone finishes a sentence, don't respond immediately. Hold eye contact. Count to 4. Watch what happens. Most people can't handle the vacuum. Their brain panics. Silence feels like rejection, judgment, danger. To escape it, they start talking again. And in that second wave of speech, the mask slips. They over-explain. They justify. They reveal what they didn't plan to reveal. Silence is not empty. It's a mirror. And most people are terrified of what they see when they're forced to look. This applies most powerfully when you're attacked. The instinct of the majority is to defend, to clarify, to prove. But defense is a confession. It signals that the accusation landed, that the other person has access to your emotional center. Instead, use the void. Say nothing. Or ask one calm question and stop. Why would you say that? Then wait. The dynamic flips instantly. You are no longer the accused. You are the examiner. They feel the weight of their own words. Most will retreat. Some will unravel. People feed on reactions. If you react, they learn where to press next time. If you remain still, if you give them nothing, they lose their grip. What cannot be mapped cannot be controlled. and what cannot be controlled becomes respected. This principle extends beyond conflict into ambition. Most people announce their goals too early. They mistake exposure for progress. They tell friends they're starting something new, chasing a vision, reinventing themselves. And the moment the words leave their mouth, two things happen. First, doubt enters. Others project their fears onto you. Is that realistic? What if it fails? Now you're carrying weight that isn't yours. Second, your brain receives premature satisfaction. You feel like you've already moved forward simply by talking. The hunger fades. Execution slows. Silence protects momentum. Let people underestimate you. Let them think you're average, or unfocused, or late to the game. Being underestimated is strategic cover. Attention attracts interference. Obscurity allows construction. When you move quietly, people swing at shadows and exhaust themselves while you build. This doesn't mean becoming invisible. It means becoming unreadable. You reveal just enough to blend in, never enough to be targeted. Like fog on a battlefield, you distort perception. They can't aim at what they can't see clearly. But here's the warning most people miss. Absolute coldness creates a different danger. If you become too silent, too competent, too distant, you trigger fear. And fear invites preemptive attack. To navigate this, you must understand the art of the mask. Most people wear masks to hide weakness. They pretend to be perfect, successful, unbothered. This creates envy and resistance. The strategist wears a different mask, a mask of humanity. Strategic vulnerability. You reveal small flaws, controlled ones. You ask for advice on things you already understand. You admit minor mistakes, not to lower yourself, but to lower others' guard. When someone feels slightly superior to you, they relax. They stop competing. They stop watching. And in that relaxation, they become transparent. This is not deception. It's calibration. You are not obligated to be yourself in every situation. That idea is lazy and dangerous. When you're alone, authenticity is fine. When you're on a stage, social, professional, political, you are performing whether you admit it or not. The question is whether you perform consciously or let emotion hijack the script. The master asks one question constantly. What version of me does this moment require? Sometimes it's the lion, direct, dominant, unmoving. Sometimes it's the fox, agreeable, flexible, disarming. Most people only know one mode. They either bulldoze everything or fold everywhere. Power comes from switching at will. This isn't sociopathy, it's maturity. A parent doesn't scream their authentic frustration at a crying child. They put on calm because the outcome matters more than the feeling. Apply that logic everywhere. Your mask isn't fake. It's armor. And once you understand this, you stop exposing your true core to people who haven't earned it. They can scratch the paint, but they never touch the structure. That is how you survive the game without losing yourself. And now, with silence mastered and the mask in place, you're ready for the next truth most people can't stomach: the role of enemies. Most people spend their lives trying to eliminate enemies. They think peace means universal approval, zero resistance, zero friction. But this belief quietly ruins them. Because if no one opposes you, it doesn't mean you've won. It means you've disappeared. Machiavelli understood something deeply unsettling. Enemies are not a malfunction of life. They are feedback. They are proof that you occupy space, that you stand for something, that your movement is strong enough to create friction. A life without enemies is not a life of harmony. It's a life of irrelevance. The majority collapse under criticism. A harsh comment ruins their day. A single disapproving look destabilizes them. They rush to explain, soften, apologize, smooth things over. They believe conflict is something to escape. The outlier believes conflict is a forge. Ask yourself this: who tells you the truth? Your friends? Rarely. Friends protect your feelings. They soften the blow. They lie out of love. They tell you your bad idea has potential. They say you look fine when you look exhausted. They enable your blind spots because they don't want tension. Your enemy doesn't do that. Your enemy watches you like a predator watches prey. They scan for weakness. They probe for cracks. If you're lazy, they'll expose it. If you're insecure, they'll press on it. If your foundation is weak, they'll find the fault line. This feels cruel, but it's priceless information. The weak man curses his enemies. The strategic man studies them. When someone attacks you, don't rush to defend your identity. Pause and ask one question. Why here? Why did they strike this point? If the attack lands because it's true, you've just been handed a blueprint for improvement. Thank them silently. They did your audit for free. If the attack lands because you're winning, because your movement threatens them, then congratulations, you've confirmed your trajectory. The lion doesn't obsess over the opinion of sheep, but he watches the hyenas closely, not with fear, with calculation. This is how you build anti-fragility. Fragile people break under pressure. Robust people endure pressure. Anti-fragile people grow stronger because of pressure. The majority are fragile. Insult them and they spiral. Doubt them and they collapse. The Machiavellian mind does the opposite. It converts resistance into fuel. There is no cleaner burning fuel than spite. Doubt is gasoline. Disrespect is ignition. History is full of examples. The great builders, the conquerors of industries, the artists who reshaped culture, they didn't run from criticism. They cataloged it. They remembered every name, every slight, every dismissal. Not to wallow, but to sharpen. Conflict is not a detour. It's the training ground. If you find yourself in a room where everyone agrees with you, you're stagnating. Growth lives where tension lives, where opinions clash, where mistakes are punished. That's where edges are sharpened. Comfort makes you dull. Resistance makes you precise. But there's a deeper layer most people never reach. Time. The modern world is addicted to immediacy. Instant messages, same-day delivery, 15-second videos. The now has become a prison. People can't see past the end of the week. They want results immediately or they quit. They work out for a few days, see no change, and stop. They start something, face friction, and abandon it. Machiavelli played a different game. He understood that real power compounds. Slowly, quietly, invisibly. While others chase quick validation, the strategist extends his time horizon. He asks questions that terrify the impatient. Will this matter in 5 years, 10? If the answer is no, he ignores it. If the answer is yes, he obsesses over it. This is patience, not as passivity, but as warfare against impulse. Patience is holding your tongue when you want to react. It's sitting in obscurity while others chase applause. It's working in the dark for years so you can operate in daylight for decades. Most people can't tolerate this suffering. They need proof now. So they mortgage their future to soothe the present. They take the easy job. Buy the image they can't afford. Chase pleasure that steals tomorrow. They eat the marshmallow immediately. The strategist waits. He understands that every day is a test of delayed gratification. Every urge to react, to quit, to indulge is an invitation to betray your future self. The ones who win are not the most talented. They're the ones who can wait. This is why rational self-interest matters. You were taught that selfishness is sin, that giving until it hurts is noble, that being the nice one makes you virtuous. Machiavelli rejected this lie completely, not because he hated kindness, but because he understood reality. Look at the people who always say yes. Are they respected? Are they fulfilled? Or are they exhausted, resentful, quietly angry at the world they keep serving? They give with strings. They give for praise. That's not kindness. It's fear wearing a halo. Rational self-interest means securing your own foundation first. Your health, your mind, your finances, your mission. No without guilt. Boundaries without apology. Because when you say yes to everything, you are saying no to yourself. Only the strong can afford to be generous. Only the stable can protect. A weak man cannot save anyone. A depleted man cannot lead. This requires a season most people avoid. A ruthless season. Isolation. Pruning. Cutting off those who feed on your energy. You will lose friends who are comfortable with the old version of you. Family members may resist. That resistance is proof you are changing the ecosystem. A tree that never sheds dead branches never grows tall. And this brings us to the line everyone misquotes but few understand. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Love is conditional. Respect endures. Seek respect, not applause. Stop burning yourself to keep others warm. You are not a candle. You are a sun. And in the final movement, everything converges. Emotion, power, and mastery of the inner world. The final battleground is not outside you. It's inside. And this is where most people lose before the fight even begins. The majority are enslaved by their chemistry. Something happens, and they react instantly. An insult triggers anger. A setback triggers despair. A delay triggers anxiety. Input equals output. They are not choosing their behavior, they are obeying it. Biological machines running outdated software. The Machiavellian mind breaks that circuit. He understands that emotions are not commands, they are energy. And energy, by its nature, can be redirected. Pain is energy. Anger is energy. Fear is energy. Most people leak it. They vent. They complain. They numb themselves with distraction. By the end of the day, they are empty, drained, and unchanged. The strategist captures it. When he feels disrespected, he doesn't explode. He stores it. He channels that heat into precision, into work, into sharpening his edge. I will show them becomes fuel, not noise. When heartbreak hits, he doesn't drown in it. He converts it into creation, into reinvention of body, mind, and direction. This is emotional alchemy, turning lead into gold, turning suffering into structure. You must learn to observe your emotions instead of identifying with them. Fear does not mean danger. It means preparation. Fatigue does not mean stop. It means dig deeper. The 90% ask, how do I feel today? The 10% ask, what must be done? This reversal is everything. Actions first, feelings follow. Pride comes after effort, not before. Confidence is built, not declared. The moment you let emotion dictate behavior, you surrender control. The moment behavior dictates emotion, you reclaim it. Imagine your mind as a control room. Screens light up, anger rising, doubt spiking, ego flaring. The average person smashes the console. The strategist leans back and says, "Interesting. High energy detected." Then he routes it with intent. This is freedom. When you are no longer controlled by your own internal weather, external manipulation fails. No one can bait you. No one can hijack you. You become internally sovereign. And sovereignty changes how you move. You stop needing to be the loudest voice. You stop proving. You stop chasing recognition. You walk into rooms calm, contained, observant. You see insecurity disguised as bravado, manipulation disguised as charm, chaos disguised as urgency. And instead of reacting, you feel something new, amusement. This is the quiet king state. But here is the danger at the peak. The moment you think you've mastered this is the moment you are most exposed. Ego is patient. It waits for you to feel superior, to look down on the sleeping majority with contempt instead of clarity. The instant you do that, you fall back into reaction, this time to pride. The true master remains a student, always watching, always adjusting, always aware that the game never ends. Power is not a destination. It's a practice. You've now seen the 7 shifts, seeing reality naked, trusting actions over words, weaponizing silence, wearing the mask, using enemies, extending time, and mastering emotion. Together, they don't turn you into a monster. They turn you into something far rarer. A man who cannot be easily moved. Most people are drowning in the storm. They fight the waves, curse the wind, panic at every swell. You have learned to stand, to walk, not because the storm disappeared, but because you understood its rhythm. This path is lonely. The air is thinner here, fewer voices, less validation. But clarity replaces noise. Calm replaces panic. Direction replaces confusion. You are no longer a character reacting inside someone else's story. You are the author. Just remember this, the door to the cage was always open. Most people stay inside because freedom is quiet, and silence scares them. Don't walk back in just because you miss the noise. Keep walking into the dark. That's where the treasure is. There is one final distinction that separates the player from everyone still trapped inside the trance. It isn't intelligence. It isn't money. It isn't connections. It is command over the self when no one is watching. Most people believe power is external. Position, status, influence over others. But Machiavelli understood something far more unsettling. The man who cannot command himself will always be commanded by someone else. Maybe not openly, maybe gently, maybe through guilt, desire, fear, or hope. But the leash is always there. The 90% live reactively. Life happens to them. A message arrives, and they feel compelled to respond. An opinion challenges them, and they feel forced to defend. An emotion rises, and they obey it, as if it were law. They believe this is authenticity. It's not. It's captivity. The strategist breaks this pattern by mastering restraint. Restraint is not weakness. It is delayed force. It is the ability to sit inside tension without leaking power. To feel emotion without broadcasting it, to see provocation and choose not to bite. This is why silence unsettles people so deeply. Silence means they cannot pull you, and what cannot be pulled cannot be controlled. Most people think winning is about moving first. Machiavelli knew better. Timing is power. The one who waits, watches, and strikes with precision often wins without resistance. The hunter doesn't fire at the first sound in the forest. He waits until the target steps fully into range. One movement, one decision. Permanent consequence. The modern world conditions you to rush, to reply instantly, to decide quickly, to prove relevance through speed. This is not efficiency, it's exposure. The faster you react, the easier you are to read. And the easier you are to read, the easier you are to manage. Power belongs to the disciplined, not the hurried. When you slow down, something subtle happens. Others reveal themselves. They speak too much. They overcommit. They show their hand. They mistake your stillness for hesitation. And that miscalculation becomes your advantage. This is not manipulation. This is positioning. At this level, you stop seeking validation entirely. Praise becomes irrelevant. Criticism becomes data. Approval becomes noise. You are no longer driven by how something feels in the moment, but by where it leads in the long arc of your life. Ask yourself this question relentlessly. Will this matter in 10 years? If the answer is no, release it. If the answer is yes, treat it with obsession. This single filter will eliminate most distractions, most conflicts, most emotional traps. The 90% bleed energy on things that will evaporate. The strategist concentrates force on decisions that compound. And here is the paradox most people never resolve. When you stop trying to be liked, you often become respected. When you stop chasing attention, your presence gains gravity. When you stop explaining yourself, people start listening. Not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped leaking yourself everywhere. You are not meant to be accessible to everyone. Access is a privilege, not a right. Your time is finite. Your focus is sacred. Your inner world is not a public square. When you treat yourself as valuable, others adjust automatically. Some will resist. They benefited from your old predictability, from your availability, from your guilt. Let them resist. Their discomfort is the sound of a power shift. This is the loneliness no one warns you about. Not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of no longer being needed in the ways you once were. The roles dissolve. The expectations collapse. The noise fades. And in that silence, something essential emerges. You. Not the version shaped by approval, not the version trained to please, but the version that chooses deliberately, speaks rarely, moves intentionally, and understands that power is not loud. It is quiet. It does not announce itself. It doesn't demand recognition. It simply changes outcomes. At this stage, you don't hate the 90%. You don't mock them. You understand them. You were them, and that understanding keeps you humble, because the greatest danger is not ignorance. It's arrogance. The moment you believe you are above the game pulls you back in through ego. The true master remains vigilant, curious, grounded, always refining. The path you're on doesn't end. There is no finish line. Only higher vantage points, clearer sight lines, greater responsibility for your own mind. You have stepped out of the herd, thrown away the script. You no longer react automatically. You choose. And that choice, repeated daily, quietly, without applause, is what makes you dangerous in the only way that matters. Not dangerous to others, untouchable to control. The door was always open. Most people never walk through it because freedom is silent. You did. Now keep walking. This is where most people stop. Not because they don't understand, but because understanding demands responsibility. Once you see the game clearly, you can no longer pretend you didn't know. You can't unsee the patterns. You can't unknow the leverage. From this moment forward, every reaction is a choice, and every choice exposes who is really in control. You don't need to announce your awakening. You don't need to convert anyone. Silence will do that work for you. Let your restraint speak. Let your patience unsettle. Let your calm confuse those who live off chaos. Power does not rush. It waits until the world reveals its weakness. Remember this: the goal was never domination over others. That is the fantasy of insecure men. The real prize is self-command. When no insult can bait you, no praise can seduce you, no fear can rush you, then you are free. And a free mind is the most dangerous thing in any system built on reaction. Walk quietly. Think long-term. Protect your inner citadel. Most people will never make it here, and that's fine. Every game needs players who never see the board, but you do. And now that you see it, move accordingly.